Hey guys, it's Angie here and I'm back for another breakdown. So thanks for coming back or thanks for checking out my channel. So we've got UFC 285 for the heavyweight title. It's a vacant belt because Ngannou sadly left to everyone's dismay. So it's between Jon Jones and Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones, the legend, who has been away for quite some time now, 3 years I believe. And Ciryl Gane, who has fought for the belt once, failed. He was interim champ as well, and now he's back to claim gold. So let's get into it without further ado. I'll start with the first fight of the night. So we've got Bo Nickal, who is the freestyle wrestling champion. I don't really know a lot about wrestling, but he is some sort of famed guy in that realm. So he is only 3-0 as a mixed martial artist. He was on the Contender Series and he fought twice. He won twice. So he's pretty green, like in the MMA statistical world, but he's probably been training a while to merge into MMA. It's still too early in his career to really I guess know how good he's going to be. I feel like people say, oh, if you're such a good wrestler, you're going to just go steamroll through everyone. I don't believe that's the case for everyone, especially nowadays. Everyone's getting better at everything, becoming like better mixed martial artists, more complete mixed martial artists. So I just think it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. So he's facing Jamie Pickett. I did a bit more research this time, although I don't know a lot about these fighters. Sorry for the zoom out. So Jamie Pickett has had a pretty decent career. Recently he has come off a couple of losses. His last loss in particular, he got kneed and then submitted, I think. So he's had a couple of bad losses, both finishes. The other one was a dart stroke to Kyle Dorcas. So he's had a bit of a rough run, although he's more experienced. Yeah, so he's had a bit of a rough run. So yeah, his six last fights, he's actually lost 4 of them. So they're giving Bo Nickal a bit of an easy fight here. I'm not saying that Jamie Pickett's going to be easy, but he's in a fragile part of his career, and Bo Nickal could take advantage of that. However, Bo Nickal himself, he had a bit of a layoff he had an injury. I think, it's probably got a bit of pressure on him because he's expected to do so well. I mean, he's minus 1400. So this could be one of those fights where the pressure of Bo Nickal performing on his first pay-per-view spot, and he was meant to be this invincible guy. He's only had 3 fights. This could probably be a tough spot for him as well. So having said that, I still will give it to him because he is very experienced in fighting, like regardless of it being MMA or wrestling. I would give him the edge, but I wouldn't I'd look out for the pressure or how he's feeling on the week, because I do feel like there's a lot of pressure on both guys' shoulders here. So my final pick will be Bo Nickal by decision, I think. Okay, next fight of the night. Oh, okay. So the next fight, according to what I've gathered here, is Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalin Turner. So this originally was meant to be Dan Hooker versus Jalin Turner. Dan Hooker, as many of you know, he broke his arm, so now he's out. Coughing again. So Mateusz Gamrot, it's a quick replacement. He's probably only had a couple of weeks' notice, or maybe a little bit longer than that. Mateusz is ranked number 7 in the lightweight division, and Jalin Turner is at number 10. Jalin Turner is on the up and coming. Mateusz Gamrot, he just lost to Beneil Dariush by decision. So Mateusz is a very well-rounded fighter. he's good everywhere. He's got very strong wrestling. He mixes it up really well. Jalin Turner is a really great kickboxer, and he's had a couple of submissions in his last few wins. Actually, all of his last 3 wins have been finishes, so he's been pretty deadly. He's very tall. He's 6'3". Mateusz is I haven't written his stats down, but he's just a lot of people expect him to become champion. Let's just say that. Jalin Turner, I don't know. I guess he's gone through lower competition, although not that much. But maybe Mateusz is a bit more experienced. He's a little older. Jalin Turner's really the main problem with Jalin Turner is that he's got such a long reach that if you can't beat him with any other way other than striking or wrestling, it's just you're pretty screwed. So although the odds are pretty much I think they're pretty accurate. They've got Mateusz as the slight favourite over Jalin. Then again, Mateusz hasn't had much time to prepare. Jalin Turner was preparing for Dan Hooker, someone who's very different. Dan Hooker would have just wanted to strike with him, and that would have been more of a competitive fight, a more match skill set fight. Mateusz is a bit more crazy. He's got crazy pressure, and Neal is probably the only one that could have silenced him actually. It's a very interesting matchup. I still think it could go either way, just because Mateusz is coming off a loss, and I think that humbled him because if you saw his previous fight interviews, post-fight interviews and his fights, he's extremely arrogant, and maybe rightfully so, but let's see what this little humbling and what this little last-minute incision does. So, if I had to make a pick, it's really difficult. I would have to say, I just can't make up my mind. I would have to say Mateusz, just because he's got more ways to win. He's a bit more well-rounded. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jalin Turner is a bit slick for him on the feet and, has a sneaky submission. So, but if I had to pick, I'd say Mateusz, but I'm not confident in that pick whatsoever. It's a shame. It's kind of a shame Dan Hooker couldn't fight, but then again, it's probably a blessing in disguise, because Dan Hooker, he always goes for the tough fights, and it would have been nice to see him fight someone not as dangerous as Jalin. So yeah, there you go. Okay, Geoff, Neal and Shavkat Rakhmonov. So this is another high stakes fight. This is in the welterweight division. Okay, so Geoff Neal was on a bit of a bad run, and then he switched it around, and he looked so good against Vicente Luque in his last fight. He KO'd Vicente Luque. I don't think Vicente Luque had ever been KO'd. Vicente Luque was meant to be champion quality, and I think he was and still is, but he just, I don't think he got the momentum behind him, and sometimes that can be enough to just crush a fighter. But the way Geoff Neal handled him was very impressive. Very impressive. Shavkat Rakhmonov, he is this crazy undefeated guy from Uzbekistan. He's tall and long, like Jalin Turner. He's undefeated. I did notice one point of reference here with their opponents. So Geoff Neal lost, his last loss was a decision to Neal Magny, and the last win that Shavkat had was a sub against Neal Magny. So it kind of gives you an idea of perhaps the different talent level or the different potential level they're on. So all things kind of point to Shavkat. He's a minus 500. Geoff Neal's a plus 400. The difference is that Geoff Neal was kind of, I I feel like he's just getting into his prime. He's 32, he's right on it, and he's been looking very good at his best. Shavkat's 28. He's only 28. He's had so much success. He's finished all his last 3 opponents. Maybe, you know, Geoff Neal's been fighting tougher guys, which is why he's had losses, but all around, I mean, but I wouldn't underestimate Geoff Neal here. This could be a fun pick to have Geoff Neal if you wanted to go for an underdog or something, but I would have to give the edge to Shavkat. But if I was you, I wouldn't bet on it. I wouldn't bet on Shavkat. It's not worth it. I know, this is another tough one. I feel like a lot of these fights on this card are not very... They don't seem to appear to be very equally matched. There's a lot of big favourites, big underdogs. But you never know. I get the feeling Geoff Neal might be more trouble than we think. But my official pick would be Shavkat by a TKO or something like that. Okay, the co-main event. Wow, Valentina. Okay. I can't believe how quickly this card has come around, actually. It's just crazy how quickly they come around. Oh, what have I done? So, Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso for the women's flyweight title bout. Valentina, so she's up to her 8th defense, I believe. So I think she has 1 or 2 more rubies to go before she gets all her rubies on her little octagon on the side of her belt. She's been dominant. She's had a couple of close fights. The last one was a split decision between Talia Santos, which a lot of people thought Talia won. And I remember the Jennifer Maia fight being very close too. That was a few fights ago, though. She's finished her other last two opponents, Lauren Murphy and Jessica Andrade, quite easily. She's 34, so she's probably, you know, still in her prime. Valentina has had a lot. She's been in the game for a while, though, so one thing I try to take note of is that when champions have been champions for a while, there's always this point where they get a little bit tired or a little bit worn, so that could be a factor. I mean, look what happened to Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. Amanda was so dominant, and then all of a sudden, you know, she wasn't. I mean, anyone can have a bad night. Anyone can have a good night. Anyone can have an extraordinary night. Anything can happen in MMA. Alexa Grasso, so she's a plus 450 underdog. She's 29, so she's still pretty young. I feel like she's a little bit too young to be fighting for the title right now. She's a Mexican, the UFC is really pushing their Mexican fighters. Not that it's a bad thing, but some of them, I feel like they don't have the credentials yet. Like Alexa Grasso in the flyweight division, she hasn't fought anyone like Caitlin Chikagian, even Jessica Andrade or Lauren Murphy. Even though Lauren's, you know, older, she's a tough test for anyone. So her last 3 wins have been Vivian Arajo, Joanne Wood, and Macy Barber. So in my opinion, they're not exactly what I would call a top 5 flyweight, but they're still credible wins. They're just, I feel like I would have liked to see her fight maybe one more person, especially with now Erin Blanchfield out there. Like, is a strong opponent, a strong potential opponent to face Valentina. She's definitely, watching her fight Andrade, I should definitely think that she's, if anyone can do it, she can do it. She's definitely ready. So I guess there's a bit of a shadow on Alexa right now, and she could, you know, that could make her a bit more determined to prove everyone wrong. I still feel like she's a little bit too young. I'm not saying she's not talented, but they're pretty equally matched with the physical things. Looks like Valentina has half an inch reach advantage. I just think Valentina's going to be a bit too experienced, a bit too skilled for her. but you never know. I would go with Valentina though. Maybe a decision or a finish in the later rounds. So that's my pick for this one. Okay, now the main event. So originally, when I first heard this matchup, I wasn't all that excited, and I guess you can know why. We lost Francis Ngannou because he decided to follow his heart, and I don't blame him. He wants to get into boxing, and the UFC, we're not going to allow him to do both. But I can understand why. Just having a coffee and a water break, sorry. Oh, that's better. So Francis, yeah, he did what was right for him. He didn't do what was right for us or for the sport, but I don't blame him, and I admire that. I understand that, but he kind of left. He kind of took away a lot of credibility from the division, a lot of excitement, a lot of unanswered questions that now we may not ever really get the answers to. We would have really loved to see Jon Jones fight Francis, or Francis fight even Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades, I really feel for right now because I really, really, truly believe he is a #1 contender. He's a really strong wrestler and his striking has improved a lot too. But I think the UFC haven't really given him the same push they've given someone like Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, on the other hand, he's had one win since he's lost to Ngannou fighting for the belt. So why not give Curtis Blades a shot? Curtis Blades would probably defeat both of these guys quite easily. Curtis Blades could even be the best heavyweight in the world, in my opinion, and I really hope he gets his shot because he deserves it. So that's another reason why I wasn't too excited about this matchup, because I feel like the two people that should be fighting, if it was in a perfect MMA world, would be Ngannou versus Curtis Blades. But you know, that's not the way the cookie crumbles. A promotion has to, they have to help the fighters that are going to help build the brand, that are going to make more money, or whatever the reasons are. But sometimes it sucks when you know the sport well enough to understand that sometimes the right guys don't get the right opportunities. And, you know, I think Curtis is a likable guy, but anyway, I'll get over that. That's nothing to do with this fight. So Jon Jones, he's claimed to be the greatest fighter of all time. Rightfully so. He's been undefeated for like so long now. I don't think I can't look back. I didn't write down when his last loss was, but it's been a while. I don't think he's lost defending his belt to anyone. He's had a few problems outside the octagon, obviously. I feel like he's the kind of person that is calm and so at ease inside the octagon. But once he's out of it, he doesn't know how to contain himself. He's definitely a true fighter. I've watched a couple of his fights, and I feel like he's just so relaxed in there. It's almost like at the end of his light heavyweight career, he kind of got bored. Like there was no sense of urgency, and I think that's another reason why he wanted to challenge himself and go up to heavyweight. I rewatched the fight with Dominic Reyes, and I watched it with the sound off, and I actually noticed that in those earlier rounds, Jon Jones was actually kind of getting the better of Reyes. Even though Reyes was busier, the shots weren't landing cleanly. Like, Jon Jones has this way of rolling out of the shots, rolling with the shots so well that nothing's really hurting him too much. But he was landing some cleaner shots back. I know that fight is sort of contested a lot, saying a lot of people think Dominic Reyes won, and I think, you know, it could have gone either way. But if you really look at it, you can notice that Jon Jones hurts Reyes pretty much a lot in the early rounds, but in the later rounds, actually Reyes starts landing some better shots. So he's won his last 3 fights by decision. Some of those fights, a lot of people think he didn't win. I think he has a way of winning fights with his IQ, his fight IQ. He knows how to win the rounds. He never loses his cool. Even when he was getting pressured a lot by Dominic Reyes, he kind of was just contained and he got out, but I think he realized that fight, whoa, shit, actually I gotta start training a bit more, and I need a change, or I need something to spark me, to get me going again. And I think that's what happened in that fight. So Jon Jones also has a clear reach advantage. I think he's had a reach advantage over most of his opponents. Ciryl Gane is a southpaw, same as Dominic Reyes. So that'll be interesting because I feel like Jon will probably approach it similarly. Reyes and Ciryl have very similar, they have a similar height. They're southpaw. They don't, I think Gane might have a longer reach. Ciryl Gane, he is very, very talented at kickboxing. He's still a bit green in MMA. We saw that in the Francis Ngannou fight that he lost a decision to. He had no answer for the wrestling. I feel like Ngannou was just too strong, too heavy, and a little bit ahead in the grappling department. Ciryl Gane he has some jiu-jitsu, but he didn't know how to apply it the smartest way. He's an interesting heavyweight because he's very light on his feet, like a fairy. He can just sort of move around. His foot movement is really good. He's really good at that. He can sort of jump in and out and kick you from the outside and stay on the outside, and at a very relaxed pace for him. I noticed though that he's happy to just point fight from the outside. His offense is really good, but I feel like sometimes he gets sloppy with his defense because he doesn't expect people to get him on the inside. I don't know, but then once the fighter's on the inside, he can knee them, and his knees worked really well against Tai Tuivasa, his last win, where he kind of just took the wind out of his sails by kicking him in the gut and kneeing him in the gut, and he slowed Tui down. But I did see in that fight that Gane also looked a bit sloppy. He looked a bit sloppy in his exchanges because he's kind of been winning fights with his movement and his range, so he hasn't really had to think so much about his striking defense. Although he has some cool offense, it's a little bit sloppy. And I did see that he said, look, I haven't been training properly all my life, and maybe he hasn't. He's physically gifted. He's this massive guy, 6'4" guy that can dance around like a fairy, like he's a bantamweight. And I think that's what the reason for that is. I think he's got a really big heart, because the reason why bigger people are a bit slower and they have less agility than a smaller guy is because they have the same size heart. But some people actually have a bigger heart than average. And so if they're a big person, they just have that same agility, that same speed and mobility that a smaller guy has, that a flyweight even has. So I think that's what it is for Gane. He's just been so athletically gifted, and now he's like, okay, if I want to actually become champion, if I want to be a better MMA artist, I've got to actually start training. I've got to be more well-rounded. I can't just be a kickboxer that dances around the octagon. One thing I did take away though from his last fight against Tai is that he does have a good chin. He can take a shot and recover well, or so it seems. But I also feel like Tai could have finished him if he hadn't had taken like a bit more. If he hadn't taken some of these leg kicks to the body and to the legs. Ciryl is quick. And in Jon Jones' last fight against Reyes, Jon was a bit more measured and a bit more spaced out. Not spaced out, but he was not as busy, is what I'm trying to say. So, it's an interesting fight. The odds are respectful. They're saying that Jones is a slight favourite, which I would agree with. And Gane is a plus 130 underdog. So I think that's pretty accurate. Jon Jones, he has like wrestling to apply here. I mean, the way Francis beat Ciryl, Jon Jones can just kind of piggyback off that a little bit. Although my one concern with that is that in the last fight for Jon Jones against Dominic Reyes, Jon Jones, he actually didn't have too much success with the wrestling. And Dominic Reyes is a light heavyweight. So he's the same height, like I said, as Ciryl Gane, but he doesn't really, Ciryl Gane's going to be heavier. So that could be an issue. Like, it could be an issue. Maybe Reyes just has better wrestling defense, but Cyryl's going to be heavier. And I know Francis isn't the best wrestler, supposedly. He's not the best. He's not the most experienced wrestler. It's kind of like a new string to his bow, a bow to his fiddle. But I just feel like maybe. Oh God, I lost my train of thought now. Damn it. I think wrestling. I just feel like Ngannou, even though he's like not so good at wrestling or maybe not as experienced, I feel like his weight, his body physique really helped him apply that better. Jon Jones, even though he's gone up and he's bulked, he may not have the same imposing weight that Ngannou has. So that'll be something to be aware of, I guess, if you wanted to back Jon Jones. I still feel like Jon Jones will get it. He's more experienced. He knows how to win. He knows how to win rounds. He knows how to win fights on points. Although he's 35. It's his first time at heavyweight, so is he going to be slower with the extra weight? He's had 3 years to prepare. He hasn't fought since then. I don't think it's going to really affect Jon Jones. I get the feeling that Jon Jones is going to be very hungry. He's going to want to prove a point. He's been gone all this time. He takes his craft very seriously, even though he may not seem that way sometimes. But if I had to put my money somewhere, I would say Jon Jones by decision. He's going to mix it up and be creative. Although anyone can win at heavyweight. So, I think that's about it. Jon Jones by decision. Well, thank you so much for watching another video. Alright, so thanks for watching and see you around the traps. Bye.